Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. Been sick since I got back from Tampa. Tried to shoot this episode earlier in the week. It just didn't happen. Pushing through to it today. I just wanted to give you guys this episode in regards to the breakout game and what's been going on with some of the Yankee kids. As you can see today, I have with me is Marcus and the great John Brophy. Guys, how you doing today?
Good to be here.
Doing great. Don't blame Tampa on you getting sick, though.
Oh my God! Just before
in the
we
air, it's all right.
Huh?
It's in the air. It's all right. I've been sick since
Yeah,
I don't know December.
Too. I'm gonna blame it on the winds in Sarasota.
Well, yeah, I'll go with that.
Before we begin, just want to thank everybody for tuning in. As always, I appreciate all of you. Remember, if you have any questions, you want to talk about any prospects, just shoot me a message on Twitter, Instagram, or here. Just leave it in the chat. And as always, I want to thank some of the channel members like Tina, Diver, Joan, Tim, Donnie, SSP, and D'Onofrio. So let's just get right into it. Last week the Yankees had their breakout game. John Brophy was there on the ground. John, how was that for you?
It was not the same kind of energy that I think we felt last year. I think especially because last year was the first game, we didn't know what to expect. So there was kind of really it was just kind of open to see, what was the potential for this game. So this, in a way, was a little upsetting with the way that they ran it. Kind of seeing it from behind the scenes, I was a little upset. There were a few people that were on the ground with me that were a little frustrated with the way things were handled. I think it could have been handled a little bit better, maybe from the fan perspective. Fans may have enjoyed it because I know Los, you went as a fan, so maybe you have a different perspective than I do. But overall, great game. Not the end that I wanted, but you can't. The wins were what they were, and there's a couple balls that I think could have gone out, should have gone out, but you can't woulda, coulda, shoulda at this point. We're almost a week out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a fan, I gotta say, I was super annoyed immediately at the gate because I brought my camera in a very small case, and the guy basically pulled out what was the equivalent of like a 5x7 flyer, and he was like, "If it's not this size, you can't bring that in." I'm like, "It's literally just a camera." He was like, "No, can't do it." Blah blah blah. But meanwhile, I see other people with book bags, not even clear ones, because like I said, it was a little annoying. It was a little annoying, but I like the experience. For me, it was cool to see that many prospects in one place and get in a game all together. I did like that. I did enjoy that, and I would definitely go again.
Yeah, I think MLB security was a little frustrating in that regard. I was trying to film some content of prospect signing. MLB security said you can't be over hill filming, and I'm like, I have a credential. Why can't I be over hill film? And I just said, to heck with this. I'm going to go find something to eat, and I was just really annoyed at that.
So that's interesting because that was you bought a ticket specifically for that game, right? Not like last year where it was a double header. You went to the major league game and then you stuck around and you saw the breakout game, right? So it looked like from watching it on TV that there was a nice crowd. Was that accurate?
Yeah, I think it was a full crowd.
Probably 2/3, 3/4 full, something like that.
Definitely not your typical minor league baseball game crowd.
Yeah,
well, especially in Florida.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about what else, but I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the experience of the game. There was a lot going on. I ran into Jerson Alejandro, and he is every bit of that nickname King Kong. This dude is built like a left tackle.
Oh my goodness! Like a left tackle. They could legit put a basketball team together. They probably did.
Right. So I met him. So he's 6'7", I think it is. Then I met Tyrone Yulee. Tyrone Yulee 6'4". Chanian Arias is there. He's, I think, 6'5". Xavier Marte is also 6'5". Jordan Mendoza was also there. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". And literally, it was literally a basketball team.
And then you got like Lagrange or
Lalane too. I ran into Lalane there too.
Lalane. You got Spencer Jones. You got all those other American pitchers that are 6'5", 6'6", something like that. So yeah, they could put a basketball team together.
What's up, Jose? Appreciate that. Yeah, it was it was cool to see some of those guys. I spoke a little bit to Lagrange. It was really cool to see Ben Hess and Bryce Cunningham. I was very impressed with seeing both of them. I don't know how much you got to see on the ground.
I was busy talking to Pete and Jira and Francis, so I I'll have to catch the replay of that, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I like I said, it was a great experience for me in terms of the game, and I definitely would definitely go out there again. It was funny. I was having a conversation with Kevin about, he was asking me about Jesus Rodriguez, about his defense at third base, and I said, well, from what I've seen from him, he's got a decent glove. My concern would probably be the range, and I think literally like 2 minutes later, he made it like an amazing play at third base.
Yeah, defensive play of the game. Didn't expect it to come from him.
yeah.
I don't know if that was the defensive play of the game.
You got the Perez's throw from?
No.
No?
Do you remember that play that that Alexander Vargas made?
Oh yeah, you're right. Going to
I didn't see anyone post a highlight of that. I was like, yo, that was an insane play, because he was over by second base and he ran pretty much all the way down to the first base line by the netting, and he made an amazing catch and a quick pivot throw to second base on target. I thought it was an amazing play.
You're right about that.
I think maybe Jesus may be the biggest surprise. Like, you wouldn't expect that out of a catcher. I think that may be
definitely not.
kind of a take that you might want to go with that. But there is good defense on that team overall. I mean, you can say except for the that play that resulted in the inside the park home run, but
that looked like the big league club.
I don't know if I would say defense. I would say more the winds were swirling, and that that may be more of the result.
So that's what I was going to ask you. It looked like the outfielders had a tough time with that in the game. Like,
the wind was blowing in. Yeah.
Maea's read on that one looked like he just didn't know where that was going. Or maybe Jones had a beat on it and it just kept drifting on him, or whatever it was.
I also wonder if part of that was because Maia is pretty much a center fielder. Been a center fielder ever since.
It could have something to do with it.
And it's the first time I've seen him playing left field in any game.
It's also like with Legrand, hey, get out, don't cut the ball off, go back up home plate.
From the angle that I had, it looked like it was just a miscommunication. Yeah. Maia was standing around thinking that Spencer Jones had it, and Jones didn't really look like he had it. It could have also been the wind, like I said earlier. I think I tweeted about it earlier. The winds were crazy on that day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think that may be more akin to Jason moving from center to left. That may be the same sort of a situation where, that's his natural position in a way, and you put him out of position, that's what happens. I don't think that's entirely the case. I think it was more the winds were whipping pretty good, because in a way, kind of related more to what we were talking about before with Jesus. Jesus was taking grounders pregame during batting practice, and he wasn't getting his glove down all the way. He was trying to make a quick play, and they were just skipping right by him. So I don't know if the wind was related to that, or if that was more he was trying to get the play off. But
I think it could have been a multiple of variables, right? Maea's not familiar playing left field. The wind, Spencer Jones looked like he might have been feeling for the wall, couldn't really feel it.
That's one of those, you don't walk away feeling worse about them as defensive players, though, after that. That was an easy one to chalk up and say, I still feel good about these guys. Yeah. Nothing concerns me about what I saw there.
Yeah. So going on this week, is there anybody that has stood out to you guys?
I haven't really had enough time to watch baseball, to be honest. I've been. I hope my boss doesn't watch them, but I've been watching during work a little bit of the 1:00 games.
We'll block him. We'll block him for you.
Yeah, we'll make sure he doesn't. They don't see this.
One guy I did want to mention was Brendan Jones. Brendan Jones has looked really good.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't been getting a lot of at bats, but he has made the most of those at bats, especially last week.
I'm wondering now if how we're gonna be talking about him at the end of the year. I'm starting to really feel like this is maybe striking some gold down in the draft where they got him, that we might be talking about. And maybe he's not a guy that's jumping into the top 100 prospect talk, not that kind of thing, but like we can start to clearly see a guy who might be a big leaguer by the end of not in the big leagues at the end of the season, but we might be talking about him like this is a legitimate prospect here.
And I think in that regard, he may be like a Ben Rice, because when Ben Rice was drafted, he was bottom of the that draft class, and he kind of came out of nowhere. Just literally, he came out swinging. And I'm looking at this guy like he was drafted. He was what, like 12th round or 15th round or something,
I think
something
it was
lower like that.
11, 12 round. Yeah. Something like
Yeah. And I'm looking at him like, this kid's got some pop. They know what they're doing, especially middle of the draft. That's their sweet spot.
but also for a guy who played on a college team that had their season canceled because they got him, around COVID time, and he didn't have a lot of noise around him. And I was thinking about that today. When you don't have draft hype going in and you're not a prospect who's got that pedigree, and so nobody talks about you, then it can seem like you came out of nowhere. But this is somebody that I remember them talking about. They felt really good about his bat when they drafted him. And if we can still call him a prospect, then he's the guy who's standing out to me right now because he's just blistering the baseball when he makes contact, which is thankfully frequently.
Yeah, and he was definitely someone that stood out to me when I saw him in Tampa. Right out of that entire draft class that I saw for that little bit of time in Tampa at the end of the season, he stood out way above everybody else. And I think he was almost immediately sent up to Hudson Valley or something like
I
that.
think he played one series. I think 6
Yeah.
games he played, and then he was kicked. To me, he was probably the most exciting player after he debuted.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the guys that I always tuned in for him. I think he hit over 400, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he hit like around 400. His on base percentage was just insane. It was well over 500% as well. And that kind of the on base thing kind of carried on into Hudson Valley. He did have some issues with the batting average was low. I thought it was because of a batted balls in play was low. We did speak to him. He came on the show maybe a month or so. And he himself said that he felt like he was, getting good licks in, but the balls just weren't dropping for him.
I remember, that's when I was writing for Pinstripe Alley and I was trying to do like a player of the week type of thing. And well, I can't pick Ben Rice again, but it's Ben Rice again. And the numbers, you kept looking at him and thinking, this isn't real because nobody can hit like this. And he kept it up and then went up to AA and just doing the same thing.
Yeah. I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
So I was going to say, I think kind of along that same topic, it's kind of not what you wanted to talk about, but along the same kind of topic, Dylan Lewis, I think, is a kid that no one's really talking about. And I think that's one of the ones that I'm really excited to see what this year turns out for him, because it's the same part of the draft class. I think I saw he was 13th, 13th round. So not getting a lot of noise. Someone talked highly of him recently. I think one of the games someone spoke highly of him.
I didn't hear it, but I think I heard that the radio crew was talking about him.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, it was Dave Sims or Susan was talking about him.
Yeah.
Joe De Los Santos is another guy that I'm going to be watching this year. I thought he was pretty good last year at Tampa. He's definitely got to keep an eye on. I think he was the 10th pick last year for the Yanks. One thing I did want to mention, I posted about this. I think it was yesterday, going into last night. Over Jason's last 10 games or so, I think he was hitting well over 300. He looks like he's locked in and ready for the season to begin. And I did mention to some people that sometimes when Jason comes into a new league, he tends to start a little slow, and then he just locks in, and that seems to be the case for him right now.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I don't think anybody has any questions about that from the offensive side, even if he is allowed to struggle a little bit, and people have been paying so much attention to the defense. And now that calms down, if he gets out of the gate swinging the bat well, you'll start to hear people. Well, either they won't talk about him or they'll start talking about Rookie of the Year. But I think people feel pretty comfortable with him right now, especially when you consider the alternatives. But I think people just feel good about Jason.
Yeah, look at here it is. Over the last 10 games, he's hitting 353, 371 on base percentage, 1018 OPS, 4 extra base hits, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. The only thing that if I want to be, ticky tacky about it is the walks, but I'm not concerned with it yet. I think he's only had 1 walks in that span. To I think it's 11 Ks if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's also no swings from the right side, right? They're just not facing left-handers.
I don't know. I don't know if he's faced.
That sounds right. Yeah, I don't think they faced a lot of left-handers.
They said I thought I heard he had fewer than 10 at bats against a left-hander in spring, which what are you going to do? You can only face the guys who are pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to that breakout game, when I was looking at the roster, do you have any insight on why the roster changed? Because I think the first iteration of it, there's no Urena. There's some of the pitchers changed. I know, obviously, Schlittler got taken off it because he started the next day. But then Gabrielson got added. Vargas got added. Any idea why that happened, or from the PR side?
I didn't hear anything in that regard.
I don't either. I started to look because I was at the bullpen, and I saw someone was warming up in the bullpen. It was a lefty, and I was like, wait, there's only one lefty on the roster, but this is not him. Who is this? And I later saw that it was Will Bryan.
Yeah. I just thought that was weird. And then, I sent a message to Carlos because I saw the name of Chris Veach on the roster, and I got to admit, I didn't know who that was. And I figured on this, I'd know who the guys were on the breakout roster, but I had to look them up because they just signed him last year, and I don't think he has appeared in a game yet.
I don't believe so, no.
He's an undrafted free agent?
No, I haven't seen him. I think he traveled, but I don't think he's gotten into a game yet.
Okay. So that's another thing about that roster. I think I counted 5 undrafted free agents that they had on the breakout roster. I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing, or a nothing, but it's interesting to me.
They've done really well with undrafted free agents of late.
Yeah.
That's kind of like one of those sneaky things that the Yankees do is they are really good at finding untapped talent. I mean, who would have ever thought to find a guy from the Queen's University of North Carolina?
Or look to the scouting team for that.
Having Rafael Flores now being talked about the way he is.
Yeah, I saw him speaking highly of him.
But again, he's another talent that when he made his debut in FCL, he was, I think it was like the first or second game or something like that I saw him. He was pretty close to hitting for the cycle. It was like a double, triple, and a home run. I think he was like a double away from the cycle or something along those lines. And he was their big offensive talent for the FCL playoffs that year too.
Yeah, I think he hit close to 500 in that during that debut week. I think he debuted like a week or so before the playoffs started, and he was just on an absolute tear.
And he was another undrafted kid, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah.
When the manager is singing your praises the way he is, you've come a long way in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look and see. What else is it? Have you gotten to speak to Vargas, bro?
I have here and there. I spoke to him really briefly during the breakout or before the breakout game.
Mm-hmm.
Both him and Maia, but they were so busy, and I didn't want to kind of disrupt the vibe so much. I wanted them to enjoy it more than be bothered about an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But I've spoken to him on and off during the spring training period.
Yeah, I was happy that he got added. I mean, at first I was questioning why he didn't, but I'm glad he was eventually added to the roster.
Well, like Maia as an example, I spoke to him because he was hanging out by the dugout for quite a bit, and so I spoke to him and like, hey, so do you know about the whole prospect of this game? What it means and who's going to see it? And he didn't really understand because I guess they didn't really explain to him this is what the deal is. So I'm like, yeah, so this is going to be on TV. This will be your first time you're on TV. He's like, what are you talking about? So I told him nationally broadcasted game in a way probably worldwide, depending on what they broadcast worldwide. And he was just like shaking in his boots, like, and I'm like, no, don't look at it like that. It's just another game.
It's funny because when I posted the roster, he texted me. He was like, "What is this? What is this?" And I'm like, "It's the breakout game for Saturday." And he was like, well, "Okay, where is it?" That ball that he hit, I was looking over it. I was looking over some of the video that I took. That ball that he hit to left field. I think if it wasn't for the wind, that ball is probably over the fence. I don't know if you got to take a look at it.
Well, it looked like on TV that guys were striking the ball, but it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. Brumfield was a victim of that.
Yep. Yeah, that ball was really pushing against the wind. It was one of those where if you're on a plane, your 6-hour flight becomes an 8-hour flight.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was looking, I was like, that shot, that hit, that fly ball to left field, that could have been out if it hadn't been the wind blowing in so much. I'm pretty sure of it. But yeah, I would, I was happy for Maya that he got to participate in that as well. I mean, I'm expecting a big season from him. He looks really good. I mean, for me, I think it's just a matter of health.
Yeah.
All right, pronunciation check. Is it Edgeline Perez? How do you say
Egling,
his first?
Egling.
Edgeline?
Yeah.
Egling.
So does he look as vertically challenged in person as he does on TV? He looked like a smaller man in the batter's box.
You could say that.
Okay.
His nickname, from what I've heard, is not El Enano, which is that's another catcher, which
The
is
dwarf.
the dwarf. Who was who's the catcher that was in Hudson Valley? Was it Hudson Valley?
Juan
Or was
Sanchez.
this who was it?
Juan Sanchez.
No.
Omar Martinez.
No, I'm trying to think of. I gotta look up rosters now. Hang on.
Um,
I gotta
Antonio
find my
Gomez was there also.
I gotta find my roster. It's one of the other. I think it's another catcher. There's one of the catchers is El Enano. I know that was their kind of inside joke that they had going. You can keep going. It's going to take me a minute.
Yeah. I guess we could just go into it. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, right? The minor league transactions posted, and there were a lot of names that were added to the IL. I knew about a lot of them. I don't
It was
like
the
talking
18th
about
and 19th.
who.
It was either the 18th or the 19th that it was posted.
I don't really like talking about that.
No.
To protect players' privacy and whatnot. I will typically wait for it to be published, but I knew about a lot of these. There were some surprises. I'll just go through it if you guys hadn't heard. Brock Selvage. Well, I'll give you the 60-day ILs. It's Brock Selvage, Henry Lalane, Ben Shields, Emmanuel Tejeda, Luis Serna, Jordan Mendoza, Kevin Stevens, Alan Facundo, Carson Coleman, and Justin Lang. Full season IL, you have Chase Hampton, Thatcher Hurd, Brian Hendry, Thomas Balboni, and Alex Mauricio.
I gotta admit, like
hurt.
during the winter, when I'm depressed because the weather's so bad in upstate New York and there's no baseball,
Okay.
something I do to think about warmer weather is to try to lay out what the rotations might look like in the minor leagues. I know not a lot of people do this type of thing, but I took a look at what I put together this winter, and then I saw that injured list and had to do a lot of deleting. That's what, 7 guys who pretty certainly would have had rotation spots.
Yeah. The Lalane injury, I knew about that. Yeah. I spoke to him at the breakout game. He told me he should begin throwing next month. I'm expecting that he's probably back on the mound. It's a rehab game by mid to late June is my hope. Because this is a big year for him.
So hopefully that's the case. So he's an Arizona Fall League candidate.
When I did speak to him, he did mention that. He did mention the Arizona Fall League. So my assumption was that we'll probably see him there.
Okay.
Edison Duran was the name I was looking for.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was in Tampa. I thought he made his way up to Hudson Valley, but I was a little too optimistic there.
So yeah, I was surprised to see Ben Shields' name. That one was a surprise to me. Kevin Stevens was a surprise because I know he's been in spring training. He's gotten to a couple games. I didn't know how injured he was. And to me, the biggest one outside of them would probably be Brian Hendry. I was really hoping to see a big move or a big step up from Hendry this season.
Yeah, and draft pick Thatcher Hurd. That there's somebody I know that I heard a lot of good things about after they drafted him, and we probably feel pretty good about seeing Ben Hess and Bryce Cunningham in the breakout game, but Hurd's supposed to be right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
That type of pitcher, so that's rough that he's going to have to wait a bit to get his pro career started.
Yeah, there's a bunch of names like you were saying. There's a number that I know of or have heard of. There's a bunch that were in Tampa last year that they had Tommy John, and they're on their way back. Like Luis Serna is one of them. I think he's going to be in end of July, early August time frame, if memory serves, when he when he went for Tommy John. Adam Stone, I was talking to him last year. I know he was supposed to be coming back, and then he got derailed by something different. So um, he should be pretty soon, I would imagine.
I feel the same way about Alan Facundo. He was a guy that was
Yeah.
really excited about coming back.
I'm a fan of his.
Yeah.
I think he's good. That one stinks.
hmm
But
he was pitching his ass off last season. I love to see it because there weren't too many left-handed pitchers in New York, and to see what he was doing was pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
I'm curious how he returns if he has the same kind of stuff, because when you return from a Tommy John, you never know what you're going to get out of a pitcher. Sometimes it's even better. Sometimes it's a little bit worse because they have to find their feel again. So I'm excited to see what he offers. I would imagine he would start the year in Tampa just because of the. I was going to say rehab facilities, but we're not going to have the same rehab facilities down here as we have. But they'll have the complex that they can use to get some innings in at least.
It is tough when all these things happen and nobody's thrown a pitch that counts yet. You're not even through spring training, and that's really the time when you hold your breath for these things. If you can get into the season, maybe you can be okay.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I've picked up on some people starting to question the training staff, and I get that there's a reaction to these types of things, and we want to point fingers and say that there's a problem here. Every pitcher is one pitch away from Tommy John surgery, and your training staff could do everything right and provide the right program, and somebody just goes out and throws harder than they should or extends a little more than they should, and he's down for a year. So I can't point the finger at training staff. This is just what happens with pitchers.
Yes, I just feel like the Yankees fall victim to this a little too often. It's a bit frustrating.
Yeah. I think that's more what the concern is with the fans. And
So
I understand.
how does this compare to another team? That's a question that's fair. Is everybody have a list that looks like this?
Honestly, I couldn't say. I
Yeah.
don't really look at the orgs from other teams, but it just feels like I said, it's a little frustrating when you're expecting something from, like, let's say, a Chase Hampton, Thatcher Hurd, or Brian Hendry, and then it's like, nope, Tommy John, you got to wait another year.
Yeah, and in their situation now, because I mean they really need innings at the major league level, and a guy like Shields or Hampton would have been in position to be depth for them this year. Not 40-man guys, but somebody where you could say they're a step away, and we might need to call on them, and they're there, but that option's gone now. So maybe Selvage could have put himself in that position too, not at the front of the line, but those are depth arms that aren't there now.
Yep.
I think looking at another organization, just kind of as a for instance, you can look at someone like Enrique Tiedemann, who is one of Toronto's big names, and he seems to always be hurt. And I keep thinking to myself, man, I've seen more of him in Dunedin than I really should be seeing, just because it seems like he's on Tommy John or he's doing this kind of rehab and that kind of rehab. It's like you were saying, it's you don't know what's going to happen with these players, and like Eric mentions, at least Brendan Beck isn't injured, but I mean, heaven forbid something happens in a couple weeks, because once the season gets started, they get up to cold weather. Who knows what's going to happen?
I mean, and another thing is, there's reinforcements, right? Like I just finished saying, Ben Hess and Bryce Cunningham both looked really good. Every time I was looking up at the scoreboard for Cunningham, it was 98, 98, 98. I mean, I don't know how many times he hit it on that night. You guys in the chat, feel free to correct me on that, but it was pretty consistent from him. And like I said, it was very exciting for me because I had no idea what we were going to get out of Cunningham or Hess. And to me, they both looked really good.
I thought they looked great. I think even because some of the questions about Hess that I read just in scouting reports, I felt great about the way he threw the ball and the way it looked like he controlled the strike zone too. And I know it's a really small sample, but I really like the way he threw the ball. He looked great. So that's something to be excited about there.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask.
And I was saying, and keep in mind, there's still another 10, 12 guys that the Yankees drafted, and another 2 or 3 that they were undrafted free agents.
And that's a cool, that's what a first round pick should look like. I might not be a big fan of taking pitchers in the first round, but if that's what they should look like if you do take them. So I felt good about that.
So my question is to you guys is: would you rather have somebody throwing darts and throwing 99, 100, and they kind of know where the ball is going, or would you rather them throw 93 and have incredible control and they know how to get the corner of the strike zone?
As long as they had other secondaries that they could do
Of
that
course,
with,
yeah.
then yeah, I might look for that. But I think that's a little bit of a discussion now. I think Boston was been public about that, where they didn't feel like they had enough guys throwing just high octane, where they can make mistakes and get away with it, because stuff seems to play where you don't have to be perfect if you're throwing that hard. But I guess I'm just me personally, I'd rather have a guy who's got control of the strike zone, because
I mean, that was a
things
question
go
for the org.
sideways pretty fast when you don't.
That was
Yeah.
a question for the org last year, where Yankee fans were saying, "Well, where's that guy? That are racking up the whiff rates?" Because there wasn't anybody that was blowing away hitters towards the end of last season.
Right, getting
'Cause
ground
it'll be-
balls. That's how they built their bullpen, is around ground balls. It looked like, and now they wanted some more strikeout this year.
Yeah, you need a guy or two that can get a strikeout here and there.
Yeah,
Because that's more along the lines of like an Edgar Barclay, where he's not throwing. I think he's throwing like 92 at most, 93, or
For being generous.
like a Marcus Stroman, where neither one of them are throwing heat, but Barkley, he needs a little bit more help with the control in some cases, because he had like a 5.6-ish ERA last year.
and Stroman's a good example of that.
Yeah.
No room for error.
Yeah.
With his stuff, he has no room for error. Where
I mean, but
like a Luis Heel can miss and still get away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, and going back even further, what was Greg Maddux 92 on the fastball?
Well, early in his career, he threw pretty hard.
And then he traded in for
toward
the
the
man.
end, it was a lot of movement and spotting, and those were
Just
also
dotting.
the days when the plate seemed a little wider than it is today. They didn't put the little box on the screen, so
Yeah.
it gave you a little room on the corners.
Mm.
You made me think about this, because, like, from an organizational standpoint, it seems like the Yankees really value power. Right? Would you agree with that? If you can have the hit tool, you can have the power tool. Ideally, we want both, but they seem to lean toward power. Do you think I'm right about that or no?
I would probably say yeah. I would probably agree with that.
I think in both defense and offense, they
From a
prefer
left-handed hitter, right?
So I was wondering about this question in the breakout game. Would you trade Spencer Jones straight up for Enrique Bradfield?
Like a 1-for-1, no cash, nothing like that.
Yeah, 1-for-1. Prospect for prospect. Would you do it?
I would.
I'm gonna say no.
I would do it.
I would do it.
And I'm a Spencer Jones fan. Nothing personal. I just, for me, a Bradfield is a lockdown center field. Speed shows up every day. He might not hit 5 home runs in a season, ever.
Ever?
Ever.
Well, he'd be more of a Derek Jeter kind of a hitter, from what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
But if that guy gets on base, he's a problem.
Yeah.
And the defense is always there. So I don't know. I just thought, I don't know if those are opposite ends of the spectrum, but that's maybe, what do you value? And I think, if the question about Jones is he going to make enough contact to make all this stuff work out? I don't know anybody has those questions about Bradfield. It's the opposite question. It's like, can he impact the baseball enough to get into the everyday lineup?
I think I agree with Jones, though. I think I agree that their bigger problem right now is pitching. It's not so much the outfield.
Yeah.
Speaking of trading a top prospect, Kevin Alcantara has looked really good. Didn't he get mentioned in the breakout, the first team?
I can tell you.
Did he hit a home run?
He was named
in the game,
and he did a homer, I believe.
Yeah.
Highlight breakout rosters. Nope, not that one.
They said the Yanks are looking for a right-handed bat. That'd be a good one.
So what would you want in a bat though? Because they have, I mean, it would almost have to be a third baseman or an infielder of some kind, I would think.
Yeah, I feel like ideally it's a third baseman. You start looking at the names though around the league. I don't know who the heck it would be. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who's out there.
No,
That's all I hear about, that they're looking for a right-handed bat. You would assume that they would like a guy who plays third. I just don't know where it's going to come from.
I've seen some pretty crazy mock trades on Yankee Twitter for Jose Ramirez.
See, that's what it is. I'm just not thinking high enough here. I'm looking at the bottom of rosters, and not a future Hall of Famer.
This is the whole reason why I got rid of my Twitter account. I didn't want to be part of any of that. And then now I'm part of it again, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
You know what? There was an interesting nugget, I thought. I don't know if you caught Omar Manaya's interview with during one of the broadcasts this past week.
I know it was recorded Sunday because I remember standing there watching Jack Curry do the interview.
He was talking about Peraza. Did you catch this? So he said that he had a conversation with Peraza and said, you know, because you wonder what is there. They never seem to have a lot of faith in him. And Manaya said, you know, we're honest with him. We told him we need to see more energy out of you. And I started thinking about from a coaching perspective. Like, I wonder, I never heard anything about him being a bad kid or feeling entitled or any of that stuff. But is it just a personality thing where he's not their kind of player? Now, granted, if he was knocking the cover off the ball, I'm sure they'd tolerate it. But I wonder if that hadn't leaned toward a guy like Volpe, who, if you're a coach, he jumps right out at you. That's a kid that a coach is going to love. And maybe Peraza just doesn't have that kind of personality.
I mean, looking at a third base option, I mean, the way that Cabrera has played in spring training, I think he should get as many at-bats there as possible. I don't think there should be any question. There's no one on the roster. There's no one in the organization, unless they're going to move Jazz back over there. Oh, my God. Joan, that's funny. You just threw me off with this.
I'm going to admit, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I think Oz should get the majority of play at third base. I know DJ's still on the roster. Jesus Christ.
They got 0 out of left field and first base last year and won the division. Now, I don't expect everything to play out the same way. They don't have Juan Soto. But
we always forget about third base. That's all right.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if they don't, they're not going to lose the division because of Cabrera.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, I'm thinking, you know what? If Cabrera can give you like what Chase Headley was giving you over those last 3 years, 260, 12 to 15 home runs, he's done his job.
And just catch the ball at third base and make
plays. He's done his job. Yeah. Well, I don't see why we need to start looking elsewhere or trading for a John Birdie.
So real quick, Kevin Alcantara, I finally found that email. He's ranked 6th in the Cubs organization, 89 as a top 100 prospect in Major League Baseball. He went 2 for 4 with a home run scored, 2 RBI.
And remember, folks, I believe Yankees gave that up for Rizzo.
Yeah. And Vizcaino, if I remember correctly, it was the 2 for 1 or something like that.
Right. Who I don't.
I think Vizcaino quit right after that.
I think he did. Yeah.
I mean, it was funny because he quit, and then it was like a week or 2 later, he came back to the Yankee complex, and he was hanging out with some prospects. And I'm like, "What are you doing here?"
Wow. Jesus. Yeah. But yeah, it was. I understood why they made that deal, but I was a fan of Alcantara. I really believed in him. I still do. It just sucks having to see it from afar now.
Yep. He might be the one where you really, that run hurts when you see him.
I think when you see stuff like that, it just makes Cashman go, yeah, I'm not trading this kid for that.
Well, and it's funny because I saw him that same day in a game, and like an hour after I got home, he messaged me. I saw the trade go through Twitter, and he messaged me. He's like, "Bro, what's this? What does this mean? I got traded?" And it was the same kind of thing, like what Los, you were talking to Mae about with the breakout. And I'm like, you got to talk to somebody with the Yankees because that's not my job. You know, that's not in my job description. I'm not getting paid to tell you what to do. But I told him basically you're getting on a plane at some point. You're going to Phoenix. Like, where's that? I'm like, it's by California.
That's got to be scary for a young kid like that.
Of course. He'd only been in the States for a month.
Right.
Especially when you've been with the org for so long, because a lot of them are with the organization before they even turn 16. So, you've played with these guys for so long, probably since you were like 13 and 14 years old, you've been playing with the same guys. It's got to be tough. And I personally feel that that's probably what happened to John Cruz when he got traded to Miami. Completely derailed him.
How's he been doing? Is he not there anymore?
Not good. No, he struggled bad last season.
He had a rough year last year.
Huh?
He had a rough year last year.
Yeah, he struggled bad. I don't think he had even hit a home run until like maybe a month in or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And you hate to see that. I had messaged him like right after that. He was questioning like, did he do something? And I'm like, it's a business.
Yeah.
Because you went when the Tarpons were in Jupiter, I think, right? Just so you can see him with the
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect a kid to see it this way, but that's a pretty big compliment to you that they traded a major league player for you straight up.
Yeah.
I don't think they see it that way.
But I'm there, right? I wouldn't expect them to see it that way.
No, they don't see it that way. They see it more as some of them see it as, well, what did I do or why?
Yeah.
Augustine got up to being the number 2 prospect in the Marlins organization. I haven't seen the latest rankings, and I think he made the top 100, if I'm not mistaken. I know he did make the Prospect Live's top 100. I'm hoping he makes the club.
Baseball America put out some of their writers put out a list of guys who they feel like are going to break out this year, and he was on one of those lists. And the person who wrote it was fair and said he may have broken out last year, so it might be cheating putting him on the list now. But yeah, he hasn't slowed down.
No, I'm excited for him, and I hope he makes the team out of camp. I would love to get to see him. Jarrett Turner's another one who's been doing pretty well in Miami.
Augustine is hitting 235 in spring training, 17 at bats, but he has a 1.028 OPS. So he's got that going for him. He's probably playing his backup though.
The catching situation was not good last year, from what I remember.
I was fully expecting him to be the starting catcher as soon as I thought he was drafted.
Their entire roster situation is not good.
Yeah.
And they're probably paying the clock. They don't pay their people enough money. They're still below the threshold of payroll where they're in line for a grievance again.
So their payroll, I saw something on the local news recently. Their payroll is less money than what Juan Soto is going to make
this year.
Might be less than what Juan Soto's going to make. Juan Soto's family's going to make.
Yeah. All right, man. You guys
top of your head, who's the prospect right now at the major league level who used to be a Yankee who haunts you? Who's the guy who you'd say, wish they had that guy back? In the big leagues right now, used to be a Yankee prospect. Who would that guy be for you?
You got me there.
Top of your head.
A former prospect.
Eric Whitlock is one that comes to mind.
That one. But he's had trouble staying healthy, but
he's had health issues.
Let's say Ref Snyder.
Ref Snyder's pretty like 30. He's got to be at least 30 by now.
Okay, but I mean, he's
how about that guy for a right-handed bat that they might
find
useful right now?
It's funny because like I always say that that a prospect's progress is never going to be linear, but the way that he went about it is just crazy. It was in his late 20s. I don't know how old he is now, but I was always a Ref Snyder fan, and I hated what the Yankees did to him. Came up with I thought it was some BS that he had an attitude problem. Who cares? Who cares?
No, I can't imagine that's a thing. And they never would have stuck with him through all that, right? He wouldn't have been able to go through those growing pains with the Yankees.
I'm trying to think now of who comes to mind.
Josh Smith for me would take him back right now.
Ezekiel Duran, definitely Josh Smith is one. I know Dylan Tate was in New York for a bit. Eric Swanson.
So this one's kind of random because of how long he's been playing baseball. Ben Gamel. I don't think the Yankees would find a use for him. But last year, because I was just thinking about him, lefty bat. I remember seeing him play with the Tarpons or with the Tampa Yankees at the time. Last year, he hit 247 and 81 at bats with a 717 OPS. You don't want to look at his stats for this year for spring training. He's hitting 167. It's spring training. Who cares?
Yeah.
But it's one of the. There's a couple guys that are still floating around from when I watched Tampa Yankees a decade ago that are. Oh, he's still playing baseball. Like a Ref Snyder and like guys that you wouldn't think would still be playing baseball.
Yeah. One of my first tweets on my old Twitter account was, this is before Judge had debuted. I said something to the likes of, the Yankees need to stop playing around, promote Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, Rob Ref Snyder, and build your team around them.
100%.
Yeah. One of the first person's response to that was like, "Who's Aaron Judge?"
That's funny because when I worked at Best Buy, and this was 2015 or something like that, when I just got hired, my store manager knew everything about Gary Sanchez because he's a Tigers fan, so he was invested in the AL East. So he was like, "Oh my God, Gary Sanchez is a beast," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you got to talk about this guy Aaron Judge because." When Judge and Sanchez were coming up, everybody knew who Sanchez was, but nobody knew who Judge was. And then out of nowhere, Judge starts hitting home runs, and now you look at him, and I mean, who broke the AL East home run record, and who's still with the Yankees, and all that stuff. And I mean, the Yankees are going to see Gary Sanchez next week, but that'll be interesting to see how that works out for opening day.
Yeah. The one that I'm chewing on now, and I know he was never a Yankee, but he would have been, is Basayo from the Orioles. Because I know he was in line to sign with them, and I know that didn't work out. But man,
they picked Hans Montero.
I'm sorry. I don't mean no offense to him, but
Hans is a nice guy, but I would have rather had Basayo.
I like Hans.
This is like this kid in the box looks like is it Alvarez from the Astros? Now that I'm blanking on his name, Jordan. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just looks. He's gonna be a monster. That one hurts.
And he has been ever since he came up through their system because I have a buddy that
19.
Yeah.
Oh man, this kid's gonna be a problem.
I think he's going back to AAA though. I think I saw to start the season. If we're going that route, then for me, I think Wander Franco's life would have been very different if Major League Baseball had allowed him to sign with the Yankees.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Because he would have been in a different environment. I think he would have had different mentors. He could have had a Judge behind him, and in Tampa, who's really leaning on him?
Yeah, that would be the guy I was complaining about if it weren't for the obvious, because then it was like, whoo.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to a lot of things with the Rays too, though.
I mean, I think that's just a franchise that's in disarray. Their development is great and all that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Their development is great and all that, but they're rudderless to me. The owner doesn't want to spend money.
Well, and that's what I
think they could be a lot better than they are.
I was saying that to someone else, where if you look in that sort of a context, they don't have a Judge that would be someone that a lot of the guys look up to. And I haven't seen a lot of it this year, but during spring training, you see a lot of the prospects take a picture with Aaron Judge and they post it to their stories. I haven't seen a lot of that this year, but at the same time, who do the Rays have? Yandy Diaz, and that's it. And he's not. I wouldn't call him. I mean, he's the face of the franchise at this point, but I wouldn't call him a role model like Aaron Judge, even though he's a great guy.
Yeah, and that franchise will never pay anybody to stay around. They try to do it with Franco. They just push their chips in on the wrong person. So because they turn their roster over so much, who's your icon?
I mean, they trade him as soon as they have any value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it worked for him for a long time, but it's not good for the fans.
Absolutely not. I passed by the stadium on my way up there. It was still wrecked, and I just saw that the city didn't approve the funding for the new stadium.
It's a whole mess. It really is. And I was hoping to go to opening day. I couldn't get the credential in time, so I'm gonna go the first Sunday. We got credentials for that, but I'm really interested to follow this team as the year goes on because you know what the Tarpon crowd looks like in the middle of the summer.
Mhm.
Would you? But Lois, you know what it's like down here in the middle of summer. You don't. It's not enjoyable to watch a baseball game.
That's what I wanted to ask you, John. How bad is it going to be for them to play there this year?
So there's a lot of what ifs with the Tarpons right now. A lot of questions. I keep asking people as we've been getting through the season. Now it's crunch time, and they still don't have answers. We don't know if there's going to be a concession stand. We don't know if there's going to be
Streaming.
radio or TV.
That's gonna
It's
suck.
we don't know if they're even going to be selling water bottles or anything like that. Because it gets hot and you're going to need to keep people hydrated.
So if you're the Rays, I mean, the number of rainouts that the Tarpons have.
Oh my god.
I mean, it wasn't
that bad
minimal.
last year though. Last year wasn't that bad.
It was pretty minimal, but the key to that is you have to have a really good grounds crew that knows how to handle the Florida weather. If they're going to be inheriting the Rays grounds crew, they're used to a dome. They don't know how to handle the weather.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Unless they have some sort of a contract with the Yankees where they're going to have the Tarpons grounds crew on Rays home games, plus the Tarpons are going to have them on their own home games. That's the only thing that I can think of that's going to work out. Because the Tarpons can get a field together in 45 minutes after a good rain. So, it's really miserable to sit there after a summer evening rainstorm because it's 1,010% humidity and it's still 85 degrees out and no wind. So, I think that's going to be their biggest problem, and that's why they front loaded that calendar.
See how that goes for them, but it wasn't that bad last season. The year before that, I remember it was terrible. It was
awful.
Towards the end of the season, it was like it was like every other day.
So bad.
All right, we're gonna head out of here. We should have minor league baseball towards the end of the week. I think the International League begins play at the end of the week, if I'm not mistaken. So the Rail Riders should have some baseball by the end of next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, I haven't heard when they break camp, but it's got to be Monday or Tuesday, I would imagine, so they have time to get up there.
Or remember, they didn't put out the rosters for the team until like the date of the opening day for some of these teams, which was insane. It was insane. I think 2 of the teams got their roster the day before, and the other 2 got it the day of.
I just looked at that. It looked like it was April 1st, maybe, that they let the rosters out publicly last year.
Jeez.
It was crazy.
So basically, that almost sounds like if you want to know who's going up the screen, you got to follow Instagram stories because that's the only way you're going to find out.
Yeah, see who's in the car.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to head out of here. Thank you for tuning in. As always, remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Marcus, John, pleasure as always.
Same. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Later, guys.
Thank you, guys.